Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. My name is Nick. I'll be your host. Today you are listening to episode 16. Today we're going to preview the Dodgers Marlins Series, which will begin later today. The Marlins have a record of 12-15. One of those rebuilding teams, but they've actually played a little bit better than you would have thought. So before we get into that, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. You can follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe if you prefer to watch. Follow us on social media at Talking Blue Pod, TikTok, Instagram, as well as X. We got a bunch of videos that have been coming out, so I really appreciate that. Get into the conversation on Reddit at competitive-week8715. A lot of engaging fans over there, so I appreciate that as well. A lot of people have really liked the preview pods, so we're going to keep them going. Like I said today, Dodgers Marlins. So Dodgers come off a nice winning series against the Pirates. They'll take on the Marlins in Los Angeles. Quickly, some info on the Marlins. First, with their offense. They have the fourth highest batting average in all of baseball at .256. They are third lowest in hard hit percentage. They are dead last in exit velocity. They have the fifth highest chase percentage, the fifth highest swing percentage, and the eighth highest whiff percentage. And that all comes out to the fourth lowest walk percentage and the 10th highest K percentage. So they are one of those teams that hits for a high batting average, kind of don't have too many power guys. And they do chase out of the zone. They swing a lot, and they do swing and miss a little bit. So like I said, don't walk too much, and they do strike out. So that all adds up to being not a very great team. On the pitching side, they have the third highest ERA in all of baseball. They allow the most walks, and they have the sixth least amount of strikeouts. They allow the fourth most home runs. They have the third highest on base against, and the seventh highest slug against. They are fourth worst in first pitch strike percentage, and the fifth worst in whiff percentage. So, not a great pitching staff as well. They allow the most walks, high on base and slug numbers. They don't have a high first pitch strike percentage, fifth worst in getting swings and misses. So, the Marlins aren't a great team necessarily. They're going to play them twice in the next week. So, got to take advantage of a not so great team. But the Marlins do have some decent pitchers that have some good stuff. In this series, they're going to face Edward Cabrera, who's a young right-hander who throws pretty hard. Sandy Alcantara, who, of course, won the Cy Young a few years ago, got injured. He has really good stuff. Throws hard. And then Cal Quantrill, who and then went over to the Rockies. Now he's with the Marlins. So we'll get into those three games. So game one, which will be April 28th, Monday, Dustin May versus Edward Cabrera, two sinker ballers. Now, nobody on the Marlins has faced Dustin May. And kind of like the previous series, not a lot of Marlins have faced a lot of the Dodgers pitchers. We do not have a Dodgers pitcher for game two yet. We'll see if it's a bullpen game or if somebody comes up. And then in game three, old friend Tony Gonsolin will make his return from the injured list. And only one player, Jesus Sanchez, has history against Tony Gonsolin. So we're not going to talk too much about how the Marlins lines up against the Dodgers pitching because there's not a lot of history there. But of course, I'll give you some numbers on the individual pitches that they hit well. So we're mostly going to talk about how the Dodgers lineup fares against the Marlins pitching. Game one, Dustin May versus Edward Cabrera. Cabrera is a right-hander that has some pretty good stuff. So Cabrera and Alcantara are both similar, that they're sinker ballers who throw hard, that use their changeup a lot and have a good changeup. So Cabrera on the year so far, He's got a 222 batting average against his changeup. He also has a good curveball, 167 against. But his sinker has a batting average against of 300, and the four-seamer has a batting average against of 500. Also has a pretty good slider at 154. His fastballs get hit hard, sinker and four-seamer, but he's got some pretty good off-speed pitches. So the matchups are interesting in this game because Ohtani hits fastballs really well, but the one pitch that he kind of does struggle against are changeups and splitters, which is his best pitch. Mookie Betts fares pretty decently against him. He hits fastballs and sinkers well and holds his own against changeups. Oscar Hernandez is another guy, hits fastballs well, especially sinkers and four-seamers, and he's pretty good against changeups. Max Muncy also hits sinkers well, and he's got a 300 batting average against changeups. Tommy Edman, another guy who fares pretty well. So the Dodgers should fare pretty well against Edward Cabrera. He also walks a lot of batters. His command can get kind of out of control. He's got a lot of pitches that move all over the place. He throws pretty hard, of course. I mean, he's got a changeup that actually sits 93.5 miles an hour, so a real power changeup. But if his command is on, he's going to be hard to hit because he's got a lot of movement and velocity, like I said. So I think the Dodgers fare pretty well against him because he is wild and the Dodgers don't chase very often. Now, he does rely on some chase, 83rd percentile in chase, but the Dodgers are pretty good at not going out of the zone. So in this game, I'm going to pick Ohtani and Muncy as my 2 home run picks. I'm going to keep picking Max Muncy because I think he's going to break out eventually. He hits pretty well against sinkers, and he holds his own against changeup. I'm also going with Ohtani because I think he's going to break out in this series. He's been unlucky so far early in the year. Now he still has really good numbers, but he started to break out last series, didn't hit any home runs, and I think he's going to go pretty crazy in this series. So that's why I'm picking him to go deep tonight against Cabrera. When it comes to Dustin May, now the Marlins have some pretty interesting hitters offensively. Like I said, they have guys who don't strike out a lot, and a lot of their players, because they're young, like I said, none of them have faced May, but a lot of guys don't even have a lot of at-bats this year. So Agustin Ramirez was a top prospect for them. He'll be DHing. He just made his debut a few weeks ago at Mervis. Connor Norby just came back from injury. So a lot of guys don't have too many plate appearances. Xavier Edwards, who's one of their good players, has some good numbers against fastballs, but not sinkers. Also hits well against sweepers. Jesus Sanchez is another good hitter for them. He crushes fastballs. Now, he also doesn't have a lot of plate appearances, but over 300 against four-seamers and almost hitting 900 against sinkers. Also does pretty well against sliders and sweepers. Jesus Sanchez doesn't look like a good matchup for Dustin May. Agustin Ramirez, like I said, doesn't have a lot of numbers, but he's hitting over 600 against fastballs. Not so well against sinkers, though. Wagaman, who is another young player for them, he hits 300 against fastballs, 400 against sinkers. Some of the Marlins also hit well against sliders, but not well against sweepers or vice versa, which is kind of weird because it's technically the same pitch. Kyle Stowers is another guy, not so well against four-seamers, but he hammers sinkers and sliders. Don't have too many guys who strike out. Some guys handle the sinker well, other guys don't handle the four-seamer. Some guys handle breaking balls well, some others not so much. What's going to be big for Dustin May in this start is how does the swing and miss. The Marlins do have some guys who hit for high batting average, but they, like I said, they are 8th in whiff percentage and they don't walk a lot. So Dustin May needs to pound the strike zone. Should fare pretty well against the Marlins. Like I said, they don't necessarily have a powerhouse offense, but they do have some guys who hit well against sinkers, and usually young teams can handle velocity because baseball is a young man's game. And so when guys throw hard, it's usually younger players that fare well against that, not necessarily older guys. Use the sweeper like he's continued to do. I think he'll pitch pretty well against the Marlins. I think he'll have a bounce-back start. We'll go to Game 2. The Dodgers don't have a starter yet. They are facing Sandy Alcantara, of course, the former Cy Young Award winner, coming back from injury this year. He's definitely going to get traded at some point. Hasn't pitched too well so far in the year. Michael Conforto has 3 home runs against him. Max Muncy has 2, and Mookie also has 2. So the Dodgers have a lot of history against him. Alcantara is pretty even when it comes to his splits. 233 against lefties, 205 versus righties. Again, another guy just like Cabrera, who's a sinker baller who relies on his changeup and a lot of his other off-speed pitches. He's really heavy sinker changeup. So similar pitchers for the Marlins in the first two games. Ohtani should fare well against him because of the sinker and a lot of the other pitches, just not so much the changeup. Mookie, of course, Freddie Freeman hammers fastballs, sinkers, and he handles changeups very well. Same with Tommy Edman. In this game, I'm going to go with Michael Conforto and Mookie Betts. Conforto is another guy like Muncy I've picked a lot before, and I'm hoping that he'll break out. He also, like I said, has 3 home runs against Alcantara, so he has a ton of history. Mookie also has 2 home runs. Again, Mookie hits well against sinkers and holds his own against changeups, and another guy that I want to see break out. So that's why I'm picking him and Conforto to go deep. The Dodgers, like I said, have had a lot of history against Alcantara and have seen him a lot and have hit him pretty well in their times against him. Obviously a big ground ball pitcher, good stuff, but he has struggled early on this year. He has an ERA over 6. Doesn't strike out too many batters. That's the difference between him and Cabrera. Cabrera gets pretty decent swing and miss, and he gets some good chase. Alcantara does not. He doesn't get a lot of swings and misses in chase, and that's really good for the Dodgers, so they'll be putting the ball in play. They can put some good at-bats against him. Now, the pitch that they need to look for is the sinker, because a lot of the other pitches don't get hit very hard. His slider is not very good. It has an expected batting average of 396, so maybe someone like Pages should fare well against Alcantara because he hits sliders well. Tommy Edman as well, Michael Conforto as well. So that's why I'm going to go with Conforto, who has 3 home runs against Alcantara, and he handles sliders pretty well. And then as well, Mookie Betts, I want to see breakout, so that's why I'm picking him. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the Marlins' offense in this game because we don't know who's pitching at this point. Like I said, we'll see if it's a bullpen game or what happens there. So, again, we're going to keep it moving. Game 3, Tony Gonsolin will make his return. He'll go up against Cal Quantrill. He pitched in the National League West for a little bit. Teo, Conforto, Mookie, and Pages all have 1 home run against him. Another guy who relies on a splitter changeup. So, like I said, the first 2 guys rely on changeups. Quantrill, he relies on a splitter. He throws 28% splitter, 25% four-seam, 17% cutter, 16% curveball, 8% slider, 5% sinker. So he throws a lot of pitches. But Cal Quantrill has a 233 batting average against a splitter, which is pretty good, but it's expected 285. Then all his other pitches, he's got a 400 batting average against his four-seamer, 421 against his cutter. He's got a 250 against the curveball, 500 against the slider, and 500 against the sinker. So everything up there, everything Quantrill is throwing up there is getting hammered this year. So I think the Dodgers are really going to put up some good numbers against him. Obviously, because of the fastball numbers that get crushed, Ohtani, Freddie, Mookie, as well as Will Smith, Teoscar. Teoscar's another guy that fares well because of the splitter. He hits splitters well. But in this game, I've been picking Pages and Teoscar a lot, so I'm going to stay away from them. I'm going to pick Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman for Game 3. Mookie, again, hits fastballs well, and a lot of the other pitches, like splitters and stuff, he holds his own. Picking Mookie to go deep in 2 games in this series. Then Freddie Freeman, he crushes right-handers, obviously, and also crushes fastballs, holds his own against splitters. Quantrill is also a little bit of a reverse splits guys where lefties hit 250 off of him, but righties hit 444 against him. So that's also why I'm going to pick Mookie in this game. So the Marlins, like I said, kind of an interesting team. Very young team who strikes out a lot, doesn't walk a lot, and they actually don't hit the ball too hard. The lowest exit velocity. And their pitching staff walks a lot of batters, so look for a lot of base runners in this series. And they do allow a lot of home runs. But the first two guys that the Dodgers are going to see in this series are pretty good and have pretty good stuff. Quickly, when it comes to Tony Gonsolin, we obviously haven't seen him pitch since 2023. I won't go too much into Tony Gonsolin. He's another splitter guy, so the Dodgers can add one more splitter guy to the list. when he pitched in 2023, just over 100 innings, he wasn't very good. But before that, 2022 was the best year of his career. So he's always been a really trustworthy pitcher throughout his career. He's got an ERA in his career of 3.19. So we'll see what Tony Gonsolin looks like when he comes back. The Marlins don't have too many guys that hit well against splitters and curveballs, which is one of his two best pitches. We'll see where his velocity's at. We'll see how long he goes into the game. So we'll really talk about Tony Gonsolin in the series recap and how he pitches and stuff like that. So just nice to see him back on the mound. He was a fun pitcher to watch before he ended up getting hurt. So the Dodgers match up pretty well against the Marlins because the Marlins walk a lot of batters, so there'll be a lot of traffic. The Dodgers don't tend to chase, and they're getting back to some of their ways of walking, not going out of the zone. The offense is coming into this series pretty hot. Guys like Pages, Teoscar, Freddie Freeman. So looking for the Dodgers to definitely win this series, maybe even sweep the series. The Marlins are not a very good team. Got to take care of them. Now, they have played better than expected and don't have that bad of a record, but got to take care of the Marlins. So that's going to wrap up this series preview. Pretty quick series preview. I like giving you guys some information about the Marlins, how they match up against the Dodgers. So thank you guys for listening. You can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Watch us on YouTube as well. A lot of you guys like watching the videos on there, all the shorts that have been coming out. There's going to be more TikTok videos. I'm going to be making this video into an even shorter video for people on TikTok and for Reddit. We'll see how the Dodgers play against the Marlins. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys at the conclusion of this series on Wednesday. Thank you for listening.